Welcome to this Easy Spreadsheets for Life video tutorial. In this video, I will explain everything you need to know to get started with your new spreadsheet. This tutorial applies to our 50-30-20 annual family budget series, which includes the simple 50-30-20 annual family budget, the 50-30-20 annual family budget plus, and the 50-30-20 annual family budget max. The simple 50-30-20 annual family budget has 18 tabs, which includes instructions, setup, accounts, dashboard, bill calendar, 12 monthly tabs, and the distribution tab. The 50-30-20 annual family budget plus includes everything in the simple annual family budget and also the savings tracker, the debt payoff calculator, and the net worth tab. The 50-30-20 annual family budget max includes everything in the plus and also tabs for goal budget, forecast, and money challenge. So in this video, I will go through the 50-30-20 annual family budget max because it includes all tabs. So no matter which spreadsheet you purchased, you will learn about every tab in your spreadsheet. The 50-30-20 budget is a popular and effective budgeting strategy that simplifies your finances by having only 3 main categories. Each number in the title represents a percentage of your income. The first main category is needs, which is all of your essential expenses and should account for 50% of your total income. This could include your mortgage or rent, groceries, fuel for your vehicles, utilities, insurance, etc. Anything that you must spend money on throughout the month for daily living. The second main category is wants, which is any expense that is optional and should take up only 30% of your total income. This could be dining out, entertainment, vacations, monthly subscriptions, etc. Most of the time, the difference between needs and wants will be obvious, but sometimes you'll need to decide for yourself which subcategory goes into which table. The third main category is debt payments and savings, both considered expenses for future financial security, which should account for the last 20% of your income. Sticking to this percentage breakdown is a matter of personal preference and circumstances, but many find that it works well with their money management and ensures all financial goals are being included. All right, let's move on to the spreadsheet. We're going to start with this instructions tab. At the top, there are links for contacting us, the frequently asked questions page on our website, this video tutorial, and also a link to the tips and tricks page also on our site, which can really help you get the most out of your spreadsheet. Below the buttons is an important Read First section. We highly recommend making a copy of your spreadsheet before you enter any data. This will give you an unused original version that you can copy from if you ever happen to delete or break any formulas. If you don't make a copy or you can't find the copy you made, you can always go back to your Etsy account and download the file again. As we scroll down, you'll find a basic 3-step tutorial on how to get started with your spreadsheet, as well as how to use the other tabs that are included. If you're familiar with Google Sheets and you feel comfortable jumping right in, then this page is probably all you'll need to get up and running. Next is the Setup tab. This is where you'll enter information that will automatically apply to all 12 monthly tabs. This would be your preferred currency, the starting month, the budget year, and then the family members that you want to track. So I'll just add those now to show you an example. I'm going to choose the dollar, and I'm going to start in June of this year, which is 2024. And then I'll add a few family members. Then down here is where you enter all of the information for each of your main categories. The main categories include income, needs, wants, debt, and savings. Even though debt and savings are combined to equal 20% of your income, Here, they are separate categories for budget purposes. And you'll also see here how many entries you can make in each one. For example, for income, you can have up to 15 sources, and for needs, you can have up to 30 subcategories. All subcategories need at least a name entered in the Setup tab. If your budget stays pretty consistent, you should also enter your projected amounts for each one here, because this number will auto-populate in each of the monthly tabs, so you don't have to enter them every month. However, if you want to manually change the budget amounts in each monthly tab, you can do that, and I'll show you how a little later. Also, all main category tables have an additional column for a payday or a due date. Again, you can enter that here, which will auto-populate all of the monthly tabs, or you can enter them manually each month. Any category with a due date will show up on the bill calendar. If you're brand new to Google Sheets, it's helpful to know that your entries are automatically saved to your Google Drive, so there's no save button to click before moving on. And I'm going to go ahead and add some examples and show you how this Setup tab works. Okay, now that we have a good set of data, we'll move on to the Accounts tab. The Accounts tab is where you will set up your accounts and review various totals for each account. This tab pulls data from all monthly tabs in order to calculate new totals based on your most recent updates. Simply scroll down to the Account Setup and Overview table, where you will enter account names, select the type of account, and then the starting balance. And you'll also notice that there are colored cells and then there are these white cells. The colored cells have formulas in them and should not be edited. The white cells are where you will make entries. So anywhere you see a cell with a colored background, you know not to type in those cells. But don't worry about accidentally deleting or editing a formula, because the spreadsheets are protected. And if you type into a colored cell, you will see a warning message that will either allow you to back out or move forward with editing the cell. In this table, once you enter your account data, the spreadsheet will automatically calculate these totals over here in the colored cells. You'll be able to review your total deposits, total withdrawals, and total adjustments and transfers for each account, as well as the current balance. The last column is for you to enter the last date you checked your balance if you like. So I'll just make a few entries here and you can see how it works. Scrolling down, we find the balance by date table, where you can search up to 5 accounts to find totals between 2 dates. Since we haven't entered any transactions in the monthly tabs yet, we don't have any data to search. So we'll come back to this tool after we've entered some transactions a little later. Then just below that, there are 2 tables for adjustments and for transfers. If you find that you are unable to balance an account according to your bank statement, you can make an adjustment here in the Adjustments table. Just enter the date of the adjustment, the type, whether it's a withdrawal or deposit, which account it is, and the amount. I'll just add a couple of entries. Over here in the Transfers table, you can enter transfers between any 2 accounts you listed above. Just enter the date of the transfer, the select you're transferring from, and then the account you're transferring to, and the amount of the transfer. The overview table above will calculate all adjustments and transfers into your account balances for you. Up here at the top, you'll see a pie graph that breaks down all of your account balances, as well as these totals here on the left. So next we'll look at the monthly tabs. And because I had selected June in the Setup tab, I will go to the June tab. All right, here in June, the first table is the monthly breakdown. The goal column is the only column where you'll make an entry, which are the percentages you want to use for your budget breakdown. The default is 50, 30, 20, but you can change that to any percentages you like as long as they add up to 100%. The planned and actual columns will calculate what percentages you're at based on the data you've already entered. So once you enter your planned amounts or budgeted amounts, you can look here to see how close you are to your goal percentage. And the same goes with the actual column. Once you start entering actual amounts, this column will update with the current percentage you're at. Remember that debt and savings are one category when calculating the percentage of income, but they do have separate tables in each monthly tab for transactions and totals. There is a monthly breakdown table in every monthly tab, so you could even change the percentages every month if you like. The next thing we'll look at are these main category tables here on the left side. We can see that they all have the budgeted amounts that were entered in the Setup tab. And you'll also see the subcategories and any dates that were added. The income table will auto-populate the income sources, paydays, and budgeted amounts entered in the Setup table, but you will enter the actual amounts as you receive your income, and also select which account that income is being deposited into. And you'll notice that the rest of the category tables have no white cells. Again, the colored cells have formulas and do the calculations for you. So these category tables require no input. They pull all data from the transaction log here in the middle, where you will enter all outgoing expenses. You would simply enter the date of the transaction, the amount, select the main category and then the subcategory, select which account is being used, which family member made the transaction, and then a description if you like. So I will go ahead and make some entries and you can see how the spreadsheet works and how the graphs and progress bars are updated. Okay, now that I've entered some transactions, you'll see the actual columns in the category tables have been updated, as well as how much I am over or under the budgeted amount. Also, you have the option to check these boxes over here to the left when a bill has been paid. When a box is checked, that transaction will show up with a line through it on the bill calendar as long as you've entered a due date. So I'll go ahead and check a few and you can see how they show up when we go over the bill calendar a little later. All right, I had mentioned previously that you do have the option to change your budgeted amounts in the monthly tabs, even though these are colored cells with formulas. The formula is there for consistency and automation, but if your budgeted amounts with certain subcategories tend to fluctuate, then you can change these amounts manually when necessary. You will see the warning message that I mentioned earlier for a protected cell, but all you have to do is click OK to bypass the protection. So let me just show you an example. Let's just say for mortgage, the bill is actually $1,600. So I get this message and I can either cancel out and go back to the original value, or I can click OK and keep the change. So for now, I'm just going to cancel. And you can also do this for due dates. If you want to change or add any subcategory names, then you'll need to go back to the Setup tab and make those edits there. If you just want to completely remove the protection from your spreadsheet, Just check out our tips and tricks page for those instructions. Okay, so let's go over the sections in the spreadsheet. At the top, you will see 3 progress bars that reflect how much you've used so far for the month for all main categories. So here we can see that we have already spent $2,725 for needs, which accounts for 80% of our goal, which we can see down here in the cash flow summary table. These graphs are just a quick way to see where you're at in the overall budget. Below that, there are 4 graphs, and the first is a daily spending tracker, which graphs how much you spend each day in the selected month. Next is a pie chart that breaks down the main spending categories by percentage of the total actual amount of all 4 categories. So if we add up all of the actual amounts for these 4 categories, we would find that needs would be 56.9% of that total. And you can click on the graph and hover over any element to see more details. Next, we have a graph which compares goal versus planned or budgeted versus actual amounts for the month. And then lastly, a pie chart that breaks down your current balance and actual spending. Let's scroll down to this cash flow summary table. This table is completely automated, and it just gives you a quick snapshot to help you see where you're at in the monthly budget. Because this spreadsheet has the capability to track multiple accounts, there is no rollover balance like in other spreadsheets we offer. Again, the goal column will calculate your percentage breakdown based on the values you entered in the breakdown table. In this table, the goal income and planned income will always be equal. So in this example, 50% of your income would equal this amount for needs, 30% for wants, and then this would be 20% of your income for debt and savings. And that is how the goal breakdown works. But here in the planned or budgeted column, you can quickly see how your budgeted amounts align with your goal amounts, and also see how your actual amounts also compare. This table bases calculations on your total income, despite which account that income is being deposited into. To see the balance of individual accounts, simply refer back to the Accounts tab. Okay, moving over to the right, we'll find a pie chart, which is a visual representation of your top 10 largest spending amounts so far for the month. The chart is generated by the table just below it, which lists all spending transactions in order from largest to smallest. Then, scrolling down, we'll find the table that generates the daily spending graph that we looked at previously. And here you can just review the data in text form. And towards the bottom, there are 3 areas you can use for a financial to-do list, money goals, and then any notes that you might want to add. And that is basically how the monthly tabs work. They all work the same. The last thing I want to mention is what to do with the monthly tabs that you don't use. Perhaps you start your budget in May of this year. You can hide all of the monthly tabs before May without compromising any functions, and just to make your space easier to navigate. All you have to do is click on the little down arrow on a tab that you want to hide. And then you would choose Hide Sheet. The tab and all of its data are still there, it's just hidden. All you have to do to show the tab again is go to the top menu, choose View, Hidden Sheets, and then choose the one that you want to unhide. Now, for the sake of this video, I have already added entries to July and August, so you can get a good idea of what the dashboard can do when you have more data. But before we go over there, Let me just show you quickly the Balance by Date tool in the Accounts tab. All you need to do is scroll down to the Balance by Date table, and then you would select the account you want to review, and you would choose two dates. I will enter June 6th and June 25th. You want to make sure you enter dates that you already have data for. And the table will compute your starting balance on June 6th, the amount of deposits and withdrawals, adjustments, and transfers that were made between the two dates, and then your ending balance on the last date, June 25th. All right, let's head over to the dashboard. The annual dashboard is completely automated and requires no input. It pulls all the data from the monthly tabs and automatically updates every field and graph, so you always see the most updated version of your budget. Up here at the top, you'll see some totals, which are the annual accumulated totals for your income, needs, wants, and then debt and savings. And then just below that, you'll see the annual cash flow summary, and then these three graphs. In the summary table, these amounts here in the budget column reflect the annual budgeted total for each of the main categories. So when you add up your projected income for all 12 months, this would be the total, and the same for each of these. The current column, or the actual column, is the total of all actual amounts you've entered so far in each monthly tab. So these amounts will continue to increase as you keep adding entries to each monthly tab. Next, you'll see a bar graph which compares the budgeted and actual amounts for each category in the cash flow summary table. The budgeted amounts are gray, and the current or actual amounts are yellow. The second graph compares your actual income with your actual spending. So as you make entries for each month, this graph will change to reflect the new data. And then the last graph in this row is a bar graph that breaks down your top 10 highest spending categories so far for the year. And again, you can click on the graph and then hover your cursor over any element to see more details. Next, you'll see the 5 main category tables with totals, a list of your top 30 spending subcategories, which includes the total amount for the year so far, and then the percentage of total spending. And then over here on the left, you can see a bar graph which compares your budgeted income with actual income. Under those tables, there are 6 graphs which show you the percentage you've already entered so far for each main category's budgeted amount. And last on this tab are tables that break down subcategories and amounts by month, with the running annual total here at the end, along with the monthly average of all entries so far. So that is a lot of data on this tab, but it is all automated, and it's just a great way to see the big picture of your annual budget, how well you're staying on track, and where you may need to cut spending. Okay, let's move on to the Smart Bill Calendar. This tab only requires one entry, which is the year. Typically, you'll want to enter the same year you entered in the Setup tab, but occasionally you may want to look ahead or even in the past to see when certain bills were due. So all you do is click on this blue field up here in the corner, just above Smart Bill Calendar, and type in the year that you want to review. The calendar will automatically update to the appropriate year. Of course, for any due date to show up on the calendar, you would need to have one entered either in the Setup tab or in the Months tab. If you've entered a bill without a due date, it won't show up in the bill calendar. All paydays are highlighted in green, and the bills are in red. And you'll see for the current budget year, any bill that's already been checkmarked will have a line through it. So if we go down here to June, here are those that show up that I had already checked the box for. Now each date can hold up to 10 entries. If you see any date with a ref error, and this is explained up here at the top, it just means you need to add more rows, and then you can see all entries. Next, we'll look at the Distribution tab. This tab tracks each family member's spending in the selected month. Just choose the month you want to review up here at the top. Just make sure it's a month that you have data for. So I will choose the month of June. The only entries you'll need to make are assigning a family member to each income source. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Everything else is automated. In the distribution breakdown table here in the middle, you can review various totals and percentages for each family member according to the main categories in your budget. We can see how much each member spent in each category as well as the percentage of the category's total. There is a spending breakdown bar graph down here in the middle, and a daily spending line graph just above that. Then there is this pie chart that breaks down income per family member. And just below that is the spending distribution table that lists all spending transactions for the selected month. Now let's move on to the Debt Payoff Calculator. The Debt Payoff Calculator is included in the Annual Family Budget Plus and the Ultimate Annual Family Budget. This tab is completely independent of all the other tabs. It's optional, and the rest of the spreadsheet will function properly even if you decide not to use it. However, it is a powerful tool you can use to help you get out of debt faster. The Debt Payoff Calculator is a tool that will help you calculate a payoff plan based on the debt snowball, avalanche, or custom method. The debt snowball method will prioritize the lowest debt balances first, while the avalanche focuses on paying off balances with the highest interest first. The custom method will prioritize your debt payoff by the order in which you enter your debt account information. Whichever one you choose, the calculator will give you a debt payoff plan, an amortization schedule for up to 30 years, and your debt-free date if you make every payment. Here in the top left corner, you'll enter the date you want to start your payoff plan. Then any initial one-time payment you may have, you could just enter 0 if you don't have one. Any additional ongoing monthly payment that you'll apply to the minimum payments, and then you'll choose which strategy you prefer. So I'll go ahead and do that now. In the debt overview table, you'll enter the information for each debt balance. This includes the debt name, the starting balance, the minimum monthly payment, the annual interest rate, and then as you enter this information, the rest of the spreadsheet will calculate the order and amount of payments and the debt payoff date here in this last column. So I will add some examples and we can see how the spreadsheet works. To the right of the table, there are 3 graphs. The first is a bar graph representing all of your debt balances, and the second shows you how your total balance is paid off over time, and then here is a pie graph with your current balance breakdown. Down here, you'll find a debt balance summary table, which tells you the current total debt balance, your total interest fee payment, and then your total planned payment across all balances for every month of your payoff schedule. Next to the debt balance summary table, there are individual tables for up to 20 debt balances. At the top of each table, you'll find the debt name and the debt payoff date. And then below that, you'll find your monthly payment, the interest fee, and the remaining balance. And you'll notice that these values here are grayed out. And that's because this payment was for June, and we are currently in the month of July. So all past payments will be grayed out. The only other information you would add to this spreadsheet is any adjustments to your payments. And that's what this white column here is for. So let's say you want to add an extra $50 to your July payment. You would just click in the cell and add the value. And the rest of the payoff schedule will update automatically. If you decide to pay less than the scheduled amount, or if you skip a payment, then you would enter that amount as a negative number. So let's say I have to skip the August payment entirely. I would enter this planned payment as a negative value here in the adjustment column. Now you can change and update all of these white fields in the top left and in the overview table anytime you want. You can enter different values and even choose a different strategy to see which one suits your circumstances the best. All cells will update automatically, except for any entries in the adjustment column. If you make changes to the payoff schedule after you've entered any adjustments, then you'll need to delete those adjustments that you've entered because those are not included in the updating calculations. And lastly, back up at the top, you'll see totals for your current debt, monthly payment, total interest, number of payments, and then your debt freedom date here on the end. Next, we will look at the savings tracker. The savings tracker is included in the Annual Family Budget Plus and the Ultimate Annual Family Budget. The savings tracker is not connected to or synced with any other tab in the annual budget spreadsheet. It is completely independent and optional. So first you're going to fill out this saving funds overview table with names for each of your saving funds, the goal date, the goal amount, and the starting balance, if you already have any. If it's 0, then you can just enter 0. All of these colored columns over here will auto-populate and update automatically. So I'll go ahead and make some entries so we have some data to work with and you can see how the tables begin to populate. Once the table is set up, all you have to do is enter your contributions down here in the savings transaction log. You'll enter the date of the transaction. You'll choose from the list of names that you entered above. You'll choose the type of transaction, either a deposit or withdrawal, because sometimes you may need to pull out money from savings and you want to make sure your balance is updated appropriately. And then you need to enter the amount. And here, a deposit to your savings fund will show up with a white background and added to your savings balance. And then any withdrawals will have a red background, and those will be deducted from the balance. And then here you can add a note if you like. So I'll go ahead and make some entries and you can see how it all comes together. Now that I've added some transactions, we can see that as you deposit and withdraw from your saving funds, then up here your total deposits, total saved, left to goal, and then the days left to goal are all updated, as well as this progress percentage bar over here to the right. Now let's go over to the net worth tab, which is included in the 50-30-20 Annual Family Budget Plus and Max. The net worth tracker allows you to enter your assets and liabilities to calculate several values, which you can quickly review up here at the top of your spreadsheet. First, you'll enter a goal amount and then the goal date up here in the top left corner. Then you'll scroll down to the Assets Overview table, and you'll make your entries for all assets here on the left. The Asset Overview table is divided into various sections to help you organize your assets efficiently. You'll list your assets in the appropriate category and then enter the current balance. Each month, you'll track your assets by entering updated amounts. The table will calculate a year-to-date difference and growth percentage here at the end. So I will go ahead and make some entries. For liabilities, just scroll down to the Liabilities Overview table and enter the data in the same way. As you enter updated amounts each month, you will see summaries update here in the Overview table, and these graphs up here at the top will also start to populate. This middle chart is actually a toggle graph. You just select this down arrow to toggle between your assets distribution and your liabilities. The chart here on the end is an area graph and depends on two sets of data. So I'll go ahead and enter some updates for January so you can see how this graph is generated. Okay, so just scrolling up, we can see that the area graph has populated. And at the top, again, you'll see these totals for a quick overview of your net worth. Now let's go over the budget forecast and then the challenge tab, both of which are included in the 50-30-20 annual family budget max. The budget forecast calculator will give you a 52-week forecast of your budgeted amounts, so what you plan to receive and spend over an entire year. The first entry you'll make is the date you want to start the forecast, and here I will enter July 1st. Then you'll need to enter a starting balance, and I'm going to enter $500. Once those two values are in place, I'll start picking the subcategories that I want to forecast. To keep your forecast as flexible as possible, these are fields that you will choose manually instead of being auto-populated. So here in income, you can select from all of your income sources, or you can just select a few, and the same with the other categories as well. Along with the subcategories, you'll enter a budgeted amount, a repeat value, and then the period of the repeat. D meaning day, M is for month, and Y is for year. Then the last entry you'll make is a base date. So I'll make some entries and then I'll explain how the forecast is generated. Okay, let's scroll back up to the top and you'll see this header up here. Now the category and budget columns are self-explanatory, so let me just explain these other three columns here. The repeat value works together with the period in order to create a pattern of repetition. The repeat number indicates how many of the selected period will pass before the next repeat. For example, here I've selected a repeat of 28 and the period is a day. So my forecast will repeat this bill once every 28 days or 4 weeks, and the calculator will start from this base date that is entered in this column. Many bills are monthly, so you would choose a repeat value of 1 and a month period, and this means the bill will repeat once every month. If there was an expense that occurred daily, you would select a repeat of 1 and a day period. In other words, it would repeat every 1 day. Once you've gotten all of your entries complete, you can scroll to the right to see what your forecast looks like. On any given day, you can check which income and expenses will apply for that day, as well as the beginning balance up here at the top, and then the ending balance, of course, is at the bottom, but this balance also equals the balance for the next day. Having a column for all 365 days in a year makes this spreadsheet very long, as you can see. So I've made a way to hide entire months with just one click. All you have to do is go up here to the top, and above these column letters, you'll see a long line with this boxed minus sign. Just click the minus sign and you'll hide the entire first month of your forecast except for the first day. So you'll find this boxed minus sign show up every 30 days on your forecast. So if your start date is the first of the month, you can easily hide all months so you only see data for the first of each month. To expand the columns, you just have to click the plus sign again. And lastly, we will go over the Challenge tab. This tab is a tool to challenge you to save more money. Unlike some of the tabs we looked at previously, the Challenge tab does pull data from the Setup and Monthly tabs. The first section up here at the top will count how many no-spend days you have in each month for the categories you choose here up at the top. So if you want to see, for example, how many days in the month you can avoid spending money on wants, then just click the Wants option. You must check at least one category in order for this table to do its calculations. Then to the right, you can optionally add a savings goal for the year. So I'll go ahead and add $5,000. And then down here in the monthly table, just type in the number of no spend days that you want to achieve for any given month. So we started in June, so I'll put 15 here, maybe 20 here. The spreadsheet will populate each date with an X, which represents no spending, or a $sign for any spending in the selected category for that day. Now you can see that these months above here are grayed out, and that's just because we had selected June as our starting month in the Setup tab. Any dates before the selected starting month will be grayed out because there is no data for those months. Also, we see that all cells below July are blank, and that's because the current month is July. And then this table to the right will add up the number of no-spend days for the month and give you some progress stats, then your maximum no-spend streak for the month, and then the total that you spent on the selected category. On the end, you can optionally enter the amount that you saved from the no-spend challenge. So I'll just go ahead and say I saved $25 in June and $35 in July. And then these values are added up here in this top table to tell you your accumulated savings and what you still have to save to reach your goal. In addition, you also have available 2 expense challenges and 2 custom challenges. So here we find the first expense challenge. And what you'll do is you'll choose a specific expense from those you listed in the Setup tab. So I will choose dining out. Then in this table to the right, enter the average amount that you spend on this expense and then how many times you typically make this purchase in one month. So I'll say I usually spend $25 dining out and I do that 4 times a month. And just like the section above, again, you'll enter your no spend goal days over here. And let's see, I will enter, let's see, 10 and then 15. This table will auto-populate and calculate the data from the entries you made in the monthly tabs. Next, there are 2 custom challenges. These last 2 sections work like the 2 expense challenges above, except you will type in your own challenge name and then you would manually enter an X for every no spend day. And just make sure you enter a capital X in order for this table over here to make its calculations. All right, we have come to the end of our video tutorial. If you still have any questions, you can go back to the Instructions tab and choose one of these links at the top. There are a few different ways you can find additional support, including our FAQ page, our tips and tricks page, as well as contacting us directly through our Etsy shop. Thank you again for choosing Easy Spreadsheets for Life, and I wish you all the best in your budgeting goals.